this term GTM engineering, I have a strong belief that everybody's going to have a Clay resource internally that knows, across all of the go-to-market technologies. So less on the marketing side, but more on, supporting the sales team and being the bridge between sales and marketing.
This is Revenue Makers, the podcast by 6 Sense, investigating successful revenue strategies that pushed companies ahead.
Hey, Simon, so you've interviewed a few people in your day, I'd imagine, right?
A few.
Hundreds of years of interviews, right? So, that was me. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Okay, I'm old, Adam.
We haven't had that old conversation in a while. I'm sorry. Anyway, so we've got a interesting and a little different topic today and talking about how to recruit your team for go-to-market, for ABM, for a lot of different things, and a really great guest with some pretty interesting perspective on that.
Let's be honest, even the best platform in the world, the best tools in the world need a great person that will actually execute and run the programs, think strategically, and make all the magic happen. And so equally important is really having the right talent in place.
So we have Max Spanier, who's from Sloane Staffing. It's his company. He's basically built a practice out of helping marketing teams, go-to-market teams, staff specific roles including account-based marketing, marketing operations, sales ops, and a lot of different things. And we talk a little bit about this new up-and-coming GTM engineering role that's starting to become really hot. So, and the other thing that was really interesting is we talked about staffing, but then we actually made it into how Max's company themselves actually uses ABM to find new customers, which I thought was a really great use case as well.
Let's dig in.
Let's do it.
So Max, ABM is just good marketing at this point. I think, having to convince companies to adopt an ABM approach is less of a challenge. I think the bigger challenge is now around making sure that teams are able to do it effectively. And all of that starts with having the right people executing on the programs. And that's where you come in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you both know this. ABM isn't new. I was a sales rep at Marketo, and this is back in 2017. And Marketo had an ABM functionality within their system that we were selling to customers. And that's why I started this business 6 years ago from Marketo. It's ABM, again, isn't this new concept, but you need the right teams in place to implement these programs and go one-to-one, one-to-many, one-to-few, whatever that case may be. The technologies are there to guide you and aid you in these programs, but you need the right people. You need the right people to bridge the gap and be change agents internally to get the buy-in from sales and marketing to be on the same side of the table.
Yeah, so you're in an interesting spot because, and this is unique, you're running a staffing company specific to this world. Give us a little background on Sloane and then what your approach is.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, so I'm not a staffing guy by any means. I was sitting on your side of the table 6 years ago. I started my career working for Scott Brinker, who created the super graphic in martech. Great dude. And I had no idea what martech was in 2013. I'm coming out of college with a finance degree around, 2008, 2009, not sure what I wanted to do, but I found marketing. I got into marketing technology. I started selling an interactive content marketing platform. I was there 3 years. I was one of the top reps. And then I got recruited by this company called Marketo, my dream jobs, quote unquote. After the Adobe acquisition, it kept happening, right? In deals where you're trying to sell a company Marketo, but they're using Constant Contact or they're using HubSpot, and their internal CMO is saying, hey, Max, hey, Marketo team, this is great, but who the hell is going to run this system, right? What's the team that I'm going to need? Is it one person? Is it 3 people? What's the training process? So that status quo kept coming up and more in these conversations. So I set out, I talked to my wife. I said, why don't we start a recruiting agency? I ended up hiring a few Marketo candidates for my customers totally for free just to expedite that deal. And I had a buddy in recruiting and he goes, do you know how much money you could have made on that placement? So that light bulb moment went off. And about 6 years ago, my wife and I just took the plunge into entrepreneurship. And thankfully we did. To date, we're a small business. We have about 15 people in our team. but we've hired over 1,000 go-to-market folks for B2B software companies all around the world. All thanks to 6sense, with the partnership that we have with your team, all thanks to the Marketo, partnership that we have, which is why I'm at Adobe Summit right now. But the landscape has changed tremendously, right? When I first started this, there wasn't really the job title account-based marketing. It was demand gen. But we're starting to see more and more every 2, 3, 4 years where these new job titles are coming out and there's new functions are being built. And it just strengthens the need for tools and platforms like 6sense within these organizations.
And then the people to run them, of course. You've placed over 1,000 people and you have a bird's eye view of trends, or, if you're just starting to scale a program. And I'm sure we've got marketing leaders listening in who are about to embark on a journey like that. What is your advice? What are the first 1, 2, 3 profiles that you need to make sure that you have? And potentially you have these folks on your team already, or you need to go and look for other folks. But what are those really important building blocks to a great account-based marketing team?
Somebody that's done it before, right? So I think a lot of times CMOs, they think 6sense is going to be the savior, right? They're going to come in and they're going to turn on ABM and their leads are going to just start flowing in and inbounding because they're running ads across, specific intent keywords. But let's start with first the small marketing team, right? Maybe more on the commercial segment within 6sense. A CMO that is bought into the concept of ABM, but they've never done it before. They buy 6sense. The first hire is somebody that's done it before. Doesn't need to be a super senior resource, right? Maybe somebody that's done it within a similar industry or marketed to a similar persona, but that knows that journey and can aid in that process and can, really figure out some of the blind spots that they might see with their implementation, right? Or their ongoing strategy. So that's more on the smaller side. When we go up market into more of the enterprise or strategic, chances are you have, folks that have run ABM, that have run, different demand gen programs with intent and with platforms like 6sense. Then it's just really thinking about, well, what does the team look like, right? Partnering with different, agencies in the ecosystem, like a Market Bridge or like a 2X, who I know have been on the podcast before. But then what are the blind spots? Is it marketing operations? Is it content? Is it somebody that's really focused on the integration side? So really just like taking a step back and looking at, what does my team look like? Have they done it before? If not, we need to find somebody that has.
You can look at a candidate resume, you get the conversations, okay, they've got the skills, right? They've got the hard skills. They've done it before. But obviously the hardest part, I assume, for a staffing company has got to be the soft skills, right? Because again, you could find somebody who's got the amazing credo. But is there anything that you use or anything that you've seen from your perspective that makes people extra successful in these types of roles, whether it's operations, ABM?
So soft skills are hard. I mean, I think, unfortunately, at the end of the day, you're hiring a person. And that's the problem with recruiting. My product is a person. It's not a software that does X, Y, Z. People have lives. They have families. They have things that are going on. So I think soft skills are really important, right? Really understanding from a CMO, what's the culture that you have? Is it a remote opportunity? Are you flexible? Are you okay if, somebody has a family and they, have to drop their kids off at school every day, right? So really trying to take that type of soft skills from a CMO and what they're looking for and really translate that with that specific candidate or candidates, right? But then again, we just got to look at key indicators, right? If it's a, commercial segment or an enterprise segment 6sense customer, you probably want folks that have done that before. Maybe somebody that's only worked at large organization, it's not going to be a match for 100-person company. But then, we always try to look at personality. Would this person get along? But you both have hired so many people. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about conversations and you got to use your gut a little bit. But the benefit of working with us versus just posting jobs is we give options. So thinking, partnering with a recruiting agency like a Sloane, you're able to really fill the top of the funnel from a exact candidate profile where you're not so worried about, does this person have the skill sets? Because everybody that we're putting in front of our customers have those specific skill sets. Now you're really just focusing on the personality, right? When I first started this business, all we did was Marketo recruiting. An average time to hire in Marketo and Mops is 90 plus days. And the more people have these positions open, they start a search. They say, I want Marketo, I want Salesforce, I want 6 Sense experience. 45 days in, they go, well, maybe somebody from out with Eloqua, maybe somebody with Dynamics, maybe somebody, because they just get frustrated. They want this seat filled as soon as possible. And they just want a good person.
So Max, what sorts of trends are you seeing? I mean, you mentioned this early on. There's just new job titles and job roles being created that didn't exist 4 or 5 years ago. But what other trends are you seeing in terms of hiring in the B2B MarTech space?
This brand new role called GTM engineering. And I don't know if you're talking about this internally, but this platform called Clay just came out of nowhere, right? My belief is that every B2B software, every B2B company will have a license to Clay, and figuring out ways. We're a 6 Sense customer. We have Clay. We're integrating a lot of different prospecting and ICP profiling with Clay and integrating into 6 Sense, leveraging the intent side of 6 Sense and ABM. This term GTM engineering, I have a strong belief that everybody's going to have a Clay resource internally that knows, across all of the go-to-market technologies. So less on the marketing side, but more on, supporting the sales team and being the bridge between sales and marketing.
One of the things I find interesting about that is it seems to me that role ultimately has the ability or the opportunity to scale a lot of other roles, right? If you have that GTM engineering place, like your outbound team is going to be more efficient. All these different things are kind of lit up. People are talking about it. Maybe there are clients coming to you like, I need a GTM engineer, but probably they're saying I need to accomplish a certain set of data work. How are the clients, and then they're leading maybe into that role, what they're asking for from a requirements perspective?
It's like this bridge between marketing technologists now and sales technologists. So I think starting with the outcome of what they're looking to accomplish. At the end of the day, right now, in the modern B2B software company, SDRs are spending between probably 1 to 3 hours per day prospecting. So essentially, they're trying to limit that time spent prospecting and focusing, them on the phones for those additional 2 or 3 hours per day, which is going to increase connect rates, which is going to increase, discovery meetings booked, which is going to increase revenue, that magic, equation. But what they're looking for, it's so fresh. So, nobody really knows what to look for, what to ask for. They just throw in their entire tech stack and say, hey, it would be great if somebody knows all of these different things, Clay, Salesforce, 6 Sense, right? We're seeing a lot of 6 Sense within the GTM engineering requirements, because essentially we're leveraging that intent piece instead of manually go in and really try to figure out who to target. There's these flows through these different API calls that, this person can provide to that sales team and really focus on these specific individuals. I think it's going to be evolving. I think that there's no magic bullet right now, but we're making a big bet that role, there's going to be a GTM engineer in every single B2B organization within the next 6 to 12 months.
There's nothing I love more than seeing job postings asking for 6 Sense skills or 6 Sense certifications. It makes me happy when I see that. So Max, I know you're in the middle of running a study with 6 Sense, with Carrie Cunningham actually on the 6 Sense research team, and it's the State of Account-Based Marketing Talent Study. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
We've been working with Carrie. We started this survey breakthrough back in November in Vegas with Carrie and Sarah. So essentially what we're doing is we're surveying CMOs and VPs of marketing and CROs, really just to understand their internal talent teams, what it looks like to currently hire, what's their process, how long it takes, what their team size looks like, so that we can, share this research with other CMOs as they go down this journey and say, well, I'm an enterprise organization. My marketing team is this size. What are other CMOs doing? How big are they building their account-based marketing teams? Is it one person? Is it three people? Do they have one focusing on specific segments? So it's really meant to be a value add as they're going down this account-based marketing journey, to see what are my peers doing? And, I think it's going to be, it should be published within the next probably 2 months. But one thing that we're offering as a value add is we're actually picking one person, one company, and we're going to offer a completely free placement. One CMO or one VP of marketing, we're going to find your 6th Sense expert absolutely for free.
We'll make sure we post a link to that survey in the show notes for anyone who's interested in obviously providing feedback, but also winning that placement.
What's some of the key points that you guys are looking to capture in the survey?
Team size, how they're approaching ABM, what their process is to hire, how long it takes, what are some gaps that they're seeing with their internal teams and resources, how are they interviewing, what questions are they asking, what's their approach, what's that gut feeling that we were talking about earlier, those soft skills versus those hard skills, right? Are they interviewing against their marketing operations or marketing technology experience? Or is it really just focusing on like their approach to ABM? So it's really like this cheat sheet where CMOs are going to be able to leverage as they approach, well, how do I hire this person? Because a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, somebody that invests in ABM, it might be their first time and they have no clue how to approach, what do I do? Great. I can work with a partner to implement and to get it set up, but how do I train my team? What do I say? What are we saying to our prospects? How do we change our messaging by industry or by persona? It's just going to be like a little peek into how others are approaching it. And it should be, I'm really excited about it. We've been working our butts off on it with Carrie and Sarah, and probably about 2 months, the data is going to be ready to be shared.
So Max, I want to pivot a little bit away from staffing ABM roles and moving towards the fact that obviously you run a company. Are you applying account-based approaches in how you identify prospects and work them?
Big time. So we've been a 6th Sense customer now for about 2 years. We've bought in entirely. So any recruiting agency, CMO or CEO that's listening in on this, invest in ABM, right? We're, not only are we a customer, but we're a partner. So we kind of have a cheat sheet and inside access into who's a 6th Sense customer and whatnot. So a lot of our marketing dollars are spent targeting 6th Sense customers to get the CMO thinking about, well, hey, I have 6th Sense or I'm evaluating 6th Sense, but I haven't thought about the person, right? Where a lot of times CMOs will buy and then they hire. My whole belief is you need to start thinking about hiring as you're going down this journey, because you don't want to buy and then you have all this momentum and you're excited and you want to get these campaigns and programs off the ground, but then you have to wait 3 months to get that person in. And then now it's 4 months later and you're already 4 months into a signed agreement, right? So a lot of our ABM is really educating on the importance of thinking about that ABM strategic hire alongside evaluating or being a customer of 6th Sense.
Interesting, say lesson or interesting tactic there. Like I'll give you, my brother he's a CMO of a healthcare IT staffing company. So they're out looking for talent for hospital systems and so forth to implement EHR systems and, HR and all that type of thing. I cannot seem to get him to think about things from an account-based perspective, but I will send him a recording of this and say like, listen, but you point out an interesting thing where you've got, like in the case of working with us, a specific technology that you're kind of focusing on. He's got a specific set of technologies. I think that's really for, it's a really great use case for recruiting in general, because like, if you're just a general recruiter and you're like, I'm just selling to whomever, fine.
Tell your brother to call me. I'll close that deal for 6th Sense, because there's 2 types of recruiters. There's the generalist that will do everything. And then there's the specialist that's super niche. What we recruit around at the end of the day is around enterprise technology. So leveraging and partnering with a tool like 6th Sense where we can understand what technologies they're using. So let's use your brother, the CMO of a healthcare IT staffing company, right? Wouldn't it be great if you knew which hospital systems were using Cerner or Epic, right? These big systems where you can go in and say, hey, hospital system CTO, I know you're evaluating Cerner or Epic or whoever it might be. You're using X, you're thinking about Y. Have you thought about the value of bringing really solid architect and development resources that have done multiple EHR implementations? So that's essentially the value that we, help your customers go down that journey. But recruiting's, it's just an antiquated old school industry, but it's going to start picking up as the competition gets more fierce and more competitive.
So Max, we have a question that we ask everyone who's been on the podcast. And so we'll end with that for you. What is the most ridiculous thing that you've been asked to do in your career?
Let's just keep this PG. But when I was at Ion 6 years ago, I closed Microsoft as a customer. So I flew from South Florida to Seattle, morning flight from Fort Lauderdale, Seattle, closed Microsoft. Then I had another meeting in Seattle, closed. It was Avanti, closed Avanti. And then they made me fly back on the red eye. So I went from South Florida to Seattle and back within a 12-hour period, just to save money on the hotel.
That qualifies. I think, I used to do day trips to Chicago from New York, which at first didn't really seem like that big a deal. But after like leaving my house at 3:30 in the morning and getting it back at 2:30 in the morning, I realized, not so much. Well, Max, this was great. Really appreciate you joining. I think a really interesting and different angle that we sort of went through, certainly talking about the staffing, but then how staffing can be using account-based marketing. So kind of a double edge here. That was quite good. So
yeah. And if we have any staffing CMOs, staffing CEOs, recruiting that want to talk to me about my experience with ABM, I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm happy to be a case study about how to approach this. I live, eat, and breathe ABM. I live, eat, and breathe, recruiting. So I just want to, be a value add to anybody that's considering or thinking about going down this journey.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Max. You've been listening to Revenue Makers.
Do you have a revenue project you were asked to execute that had wild success? Share your story with us at sixthsense.com/revenue, and we might just ask you to come on the show. And if you don't want to miss the next episode, be sure to follow along on your favorite podcast app.